Hey guys, tonight we re-slipping into a time and place that is quieter than the battlefield, but every bit as dangerous. Occupied, Paris during World War II. You probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And tell me in the comments where you're re-watching from and what time it is. I love knowing who is drifting off around the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The air smells of roasted chestnuts and fear. The walls have ears, and smiling too wide might get you arrested. You're not a soldier, not officially. You're just someone who said yes when someone whispered, "We need help." And now you're a member of the French resistance. Your real one, Elise, got filed away the day you joined. The air is thick with smoke, and the coffee is mostly burnt chicory, but it's hot, and it hides trembling hands. You ask for the lentil soup. The waiter nods. That's the signal. You've got the matchbox-sized package tucked against your ribs, pressing into your coat lining like a secret trying to escape. Leon told you to head to the old printing shop near the river, behind the boarded-up tobacco stall. You've been there once before, briefly. It smelled like ink, damp paper, and the inside of a violin case. You accept it because refusing hospitality in the resistance is like yelling, "I'm a traitor," in the street. The drink burns all the way down. "Rotten wine," he says cheerfully. "From my aunt's cellar. She's been dead 3 years. The truth is probably both. There were cells, codes, networks, but also desperation, luck, and people like you who didn't know what they were doing until they were already doing it." You walk Rue Claire slowly, avoiding eye contact, watching for black boots. You nod solemnly, as if toasting to ghosts is a thing you do every Tuesday. You remember stepping over stacks of banned pamphlets, names of shot comrades, tucked into margins like whispered prayers. The door's unmarked. You knock twice, then once, then pause. A slit opens. No words. Just one eye, green and bloodshot. The lock clicks open, and you're inside. You don't know what's in it. You're not supposed to know. A tiny woman with a cigarette clamped between her teeth barks. You're late, even though you're 5 minutes early. Her name's Marie-Claude, and she runs this place like a pirate ship, which is fitting because her right ear is missing and no one's sure why. "Give it here," she says, and you hand over the package. She weighs it in one palm, squints at you, then disappears into a back room, muttering about the resistance needing better handwriting. That's the first rule. The less you know, the less you can say when things go sideways, which they almost always do. You pass a patisserie with fake cream cakes in the window, painted with varnish and flour. No sugar, no cream, just props to keep morale upright. You carry a thing, you hand it over. Next time, maybe it's a location, a date, a set of names. They're watching how you handle the pressure, how your hands shake or don't, whether you talk too much, whether you ask what's in the box. You don't. Smart move. They almost look edible from a distance, until you notice the flies aren't even trying. Ours. He's got a limp. She pauses, leans in close. And don't take the tram. Too many eyes today. And just like that, you're dismissed. The man with the vinegar wine raises his mug. "To Jean," he says. "That's the name you're using today." You smile and leave. Across the room, a man in a brown beret pretends to read the newspaper upside down. He doesn't look like much soft belly, soup stain on his sleeve, but this is Leon, one of the most wanted men in Paris. To the Germans, he's a terrorist. To you, he's Tuesday's appointment. He gives you a package the size of a matchbox and a look that says "Don't ask." You tuck it into your coat lining. Could be a radio crystal, could be poison, could be sugar. You'll never know. Today you're Simone. and you work part-time for the city gas office. Or maybe you're Ivan today. It depends on who asks. The sane sparkles, yes, but sometimes bodies sparkle too when they float in the right light. You pass Notre Dame and wonder if God ever listens anymore, or if he's taken sides. Tonight, you'll transcribe a message from BBC Radio, whispered in static at 2 a.m. You'll eat stale bread and pretend it's a feast. You'll try to sleep with one eye open, listening for boots in the stairwell. And in the morning, you'll wake up again in occupied Paris, alive, for now. A fringe fact you probably didn't know? Resistance fighters often sewed tiny pockets into their clothes, not for weapons or cyanide, but for onions. Why? Because if you ever had to fake tears in an interrogation, nothing beats a good whiff of raw onion. You've got one tucked inside your bra. Smells awful. Works wonders. A mattress is straw, not feathers, and it pokes you in places you didn't know you had. You open your eyes to the stale ceiling of a cramped flat in Montmartre, where the wallpaper is peeling in elegant waves, like it's giving up on being French. It's 1942. The city of light is dimmed under blackout curtains, and breakfast is a heel of bread so hard could deflect bullets. Your neighbor is boiling something that smells like shoe polish. You hope it's not stew again. You lace up your second-hand boots third hand, really, and reach for the chipped mirror that lives in your sock drawer now, ever since mirrors started to feel suspicious. You check your reflection not for vanity, but for signs of weakness. Red eyes? Swollen cheeks? Anything the Gestapo might sniff out like bloodhounds. Outside, the streets whisper. Parisians walk with their heads down and their collars up. Every pair of black leather boots you hear behind you could mean trouble. Every smile hides a question, and every silence is loaded. You shuffle past a kiosk with yesterday's Nazi-approved headlines still flapping on the stand. Peace and prosperity thanks to the Reich. The same lie, dressed in new fonts. You're on your way to your job at the post office, which is real, but also fake. You sort mail in the mornings, but you also reroute packages, slip in coded notes, and occasionally lose letters that contain too many words like enemy, shipment, or Toulon. This morning, there's a new order scrawled in blocky handwriting inside a folded train. Schedule: meet Leon. Café Voltaire. Noon. Ask about the lentil soup. You swallow the paper. It tastes like ink and cardboard and fear. Historians still argue whether ordinary life in Paris, under occupation, was numbingly dull or unbearably tense. Truth is it's both. You walk past German officers inspecting baguettes, grandmothers bartering buttons for butter, and a cat who seems to be following you on purpose. You've learned not to stop when someone calls your name. Sometimes it's not your name anymore. The bells chime noon as you duck into the Café Voltaire. You exit without finishing your coffee. Too long in one place is a risk. You keep walking. You always keep walking. Paris is both a city and a trap. The Café Voltaire fades behind you like a memory you can't afford to keep. At the corner, you pull your wool hat a little lower and duck into a side street. Inside, it's chaos and ink fumes. The floor is dusted with black powder. While she's gone, a tall man offers you a chipped mug of something that might be wine or possibly vinegar. This is how recruitment often begins, not with oaths or armbands, but with horrible wine and tasks too small to notice. Marie-Claude returns with an envelope, sealed with wax and string. Take this to the postman on Rue Claire. Not the real one. Historians still argue whether recruitment into the resistance was a formal process or a chaotic mess held together with bicycle tires and trust. The air smells of roasted chestnuts and fear. The walls have ears, and smiling too wide might get you arrested. You're not a soldier, not officially. You're just someone who said yes when someone whispered, "We need help." You open your eyes to the stale ceiling of a cramped flat in Montmartre, where the wallpaper is peeling in elegant waves, like it's giving up on being French. It's 1942. The city of light is dimmed under blackout curtains, and breakfast is a heel of bread so hard it could deflect bullets. Your neighbor is boiling something that smells like shoe polish. You hope it's not stew again. You walk past German officers inspecting baguettes like grenades, grandmothers bartering buttons for butter. Why? Because if you ever had to fake tears in an interrogation, nothing beats a good whiff of raw onion. You've got one tucked inside your bra. Smells awful, works wonders. And a cat who seems to be following you on purpose, tail curled like a question mark. The coffee is mostly burnt chicory, but it's hot, and it hides trembling hands. You've got the matchbox-sized package tucked against your ribs, pressing into your coat lining like a secret trying to escape. You don't know what's in it. You're not supposed to know. That's the first rule. The less you know, the less you can say when things go sideways, which they almost always do. She weighs it in one palm, squints at you, then disappears into a back room, muttering about the resistance needing better handwriting. While she's gone, a tall man offers you a chipped mug of something that might be wine, or possibly vinegar. Ours. He's got a limp. She pauses, leans in close. And don't take the tram. Too many eyes today. And just like that, you're dismissed. The man with the vinegar wine raises his mug. To Jean, he says, "That's the name you're using today." You smile and leave. You accept it because refusing hospitality in the resistance is like yelling, "I'm a traitor." There were cells, codes, networks, but also desperation, luck, and people like you who didn't know what they were doing until they were already doing it. You walk Rue Claire slowly, avoiding eye contact, watching for black boots. In the street, the drink burns all the way down. You ask for the lentil soup. The waiter nods. That's the signal. They almost look edible from a distance, until you notice the flies aren't even trying. At the corner, you pull your wool hat a little lower and duck into a side street. Leon told you to head to the old printing shop near the river, behind the boarded-up tobacco stall. You've been there once before, briefly. It smelled like ink, damp paper, and the inside of a violin case. You remember stepping over stacks of banned pamphlets, names of shot comrades tucked into margins like whispered prayers. Across the room, a man in a brown beret pretends to read the newspaper upside down. No words, just one eye, green and bloodshot. The lock clicks open, and you're inside. Inside, it's chaos and ink fumes. The floor is dusted with black powder. You nod solemnly, as if toasting to ghosts is a thing you do every Tuesday. This is how recruitment often begins, not with oaths or armbands, but with horrible wine and tasks too small to notice. You carry a thing. You hand it over. Next time, maybe it's a location, a date, a set of names. They're watching how you handle the pressure, how your hands shake or don't, whether you talk too much, whether you ask what's in the box. You don't. Smart move. A tiny woman with a cigarette clamped between her teeth barks. You're late, even though you're 5 minutes early. Her name's Marie Claude, and she runs this place like a pirate ship, which is fitting, because her right ear is missing and no one's sure why. He doesn't look like much soft belly, soup stain on his sleeve, but this is Leon, one of the most wanted men in Paris. To the Germans, he's a terrorist. To you, he's Tuesday's appointment. You've learned not to stop when someone calls your name. Sometimes it's not your name anymore. Your real one, Elise, got filed away the day you joined. Today you're Simone, and you work part-time for the city gas office. Or maybe you're Yvonne today. It depends on who asks, and how urgently they're asking. You lace up your second-hand boots third-hand, really, and reach for the chipped mirror that lives in your sock drawer now, ever since mirrors started to feel suspicious. You check your reflection not for vanity, but for signs of weakness. Red eyes? Swollen cheeks? Anything the Gestapo might sniff out like bloodhounds. You tuck it into your coat lining. Could be a radio crystal. Could be poison. Could be sugar. You'll never know. You exit without finishing your coffee. Too long in one place is a risk. You keep walking. You always keep walking. Each footstep is a whisper to the stones. And now you're a member of the French resistance. The Seine sparkles, yes, but sometimes bodies sparkle too when they float in the right light. You pass Notre Dame and wonder if God ever listens anymore, or if he's taken sides. Tonight you'll transcribe a message from BBC Radio, whispered in static at 2 a.m. You'll eat stale bread and pretend it's a feast. You'll try to sleep with one eye open, listening for boots in the stairwell. And in the morning, you'll wake up again in occupied Paris, alive, for now. Every pair of black leather boots you hear behind you could mean trouble. You sort mail in the mornings, letters to lovers, invoices for boots. But you also reroute packages, slip in coded notes between the folds of ordinary pages, and occasionally lose letters that contain too many words like enemy, shipment, or Toulon. This morning, there's a new order scrawled in blocky handwriting inside a folded train schedule. Meet Leon, Café Voltaire. Noon. Ask about the lentil soup. You swallow the paper. It tastes like ink and cardboard and fear, but it's gone before you can second guess it. Every smile hides a question, and every silence is loaded like a ticking clock with no hands. You shuffle past a kiosk with yesterday's Nazi-approved headlines still flapping on the stand. Peace and prosperity thanks to the Reich. The same lie, dressed in new fonts. The mattress is straw, not feathers, and it pokes you in places you didn't know you had. Outside, the streets whisper like tired lungs. Parisians walk with their heads down and their collars up. You're on your way to your job at the post office, which is real, but also fake. Historians still argue whether ordinary life in Paris under occupation was numbingly dull or unbearably tense. Truth is it's both. A fringe fact you probably didn't know? Resistance fighters often sewed tiny pockets into their clothes, not for weapons or cyanide, but for onions. The bells chime noon as you duck into the Café Voltaire. The air is thick with smoke and secrets. He gives you a package the size of a matchbox and a look that says Don Tiasque. Paris is both a city and a trap. The Café Voltaire fades behind you like a memory you can't afford to keep. You pass a patisserie with fake cream cakes in the window, painted with varnish and flour. No sugar, no cream, just props to keep morale upright. The doors unmarked. You knock twice, then once, and pause. A slit opens. Give it here, she says, and you hand over the package. Rotten wine, he says cheerfully. From my aunt's cellar. She's been dead 3 years. Marie-Claude returns with an envelope, sealed with wax and string. Take this to the postman on Roukler, not the real one. Historians still argue whether recruitment into the resistance was a formal process or a chaotic mess held together with bicycle tires and trust. The truth is probably both. The envelope in your coat feels radioactive. It's warm from your body now, sticking faintly to your blouse. You wonder if the wax seal will leave a mark. Halfway down the street, you spot him limping slightly, pausing too long at a flower cart. He's buying tulips, red ones, of course, resistance colors. You pass him without stopping, drop the envelope into his bag while pretending to admire the flowers. It was tucked inside your loaf of bread this morning, wrapped in waxed paper and smelling faintly of caraway. The message is short, new identity. Your name is now Jean Martin, widow, 1 child, lives in Marseille. Learn it. Earn this, you do. You light the corner of the paper, and it curls like a dying leaf in the sink. This is the 3rd time you've changed names in as many weeks. For the Germans, she says. They love fish. Makes them feel superior. The ID is impressively dull. Your picture is bad enough to be real. The address is fake, but close enough to pass. And your birthday is now March 5th, 1909. Happy belated. A quirky tidbit? Like an anchor. Outside, boots echo in the stairwell. You hold your breath until they pass. You're still here, but not really. Not entirely. You're not sure if it's the same pigeon from yesterday, or the day before. At this point, he might be part of the resistance, or the Gestapo. It's unclear. The note comes through your laundry line, this time wedged in the hem of a blue apron you done to remember owning. You check the fabric. It's your neighbor's, which means the network is functioning. Clotheslines across buildings are the new postal system. There are no stamps, just string and silence. And tomorrow, Jean might be someone else again. Eloise's perfume means a package is being handed off. Near Saint Lazare probably means not at the station but nearby, in one of the side streets that smells like old leather and coal smoke. Resistance fighters often practiced handwriting drills to match their fake identities. Someone once got caught because they forgot their alias, wrote for 7 South with a slash. You've been practicing yours with a chewed pencil stub every morning. The second time you forgot your new birthday at a checkpoint and told a German officer you were turning 42 soon. Your job today is simple. Visit a market, buy nothing, observe everything. You freeze. Is that a mistake or a message? He walks away. You stay put. 5 minutes. 10. You leave in the opposite direction. That night, you get a coded message from Lorette. Do not follow anyone unless the ear is left. Double agent probable. Good instincts. You feel sick. You nearly followed a plant. You nearly got disappeared. This is what no one tells you about being a spy. The hardest part, listen to the danger. It's the doubt, the constant second-guessing, the invisible traps wrapped in ordinary things. You're looking for a man who may or may not be wearing a red carnation. If he scratches his left ear, you follow him. If he doesn't, you leave. No talking. No contact. That's the mission. That's the whole thing. Simple, right? The market is lively today. Too lively. Black bread, wilting lettuce, one miserable chicken staring into the void. You circle twice. No carnations. Plenty of hats, though. And a woman yelling about apples that cost 2 sins and a confession. You are 27. That was a long walk home with a lot of sweating. You whisper, "The red ones are lovely." And he nods once, never looking up. Job done. You keep walking. Don't look back. Most resistance members do. A brother. A fiance. A favorite cousin who told the wrong joke at the wrong time. Loss is the uniform under your uniform. Jean doesn't work at the post office. Jean is a piano teacher. She lost her husband in the First War. She wears her hair tied back and keeps to herself. Jean has a child, but the child doesn't exist. You made him up. You named him Andre, gave him measles and a fondness for oranges. Looking back is for people who want to get caught. Like how he used to tug your skirts and say "mama" with jam on his cheeks. The more you lie, the more real he becomes. That's the job now. Lie so hard, the truth forgets where it lives. Historians still argue whether resistance aliases were effective or mostly psychological. Truth is, they were both. The Gestapo often saw through the paperwork. But the aliases weren't just to fool them. They were to fool you into being someone brave, someone useful, someone not shaking all the time. You duck into a bookstore next, a decoy stop. The owner's half blind and half drunk, but he lets you loiter. She knows every safe house in the 7th arrondissement, and once threw a pair of scissors at a Nazi officer and called it misplacing inventory. Inside, it smells like mothballs and defiance. Lorette eyes you over her spectacles. "Jean now, is it?" She says, smirking. "You don't look like a widow." Need to be sadder in the eyebrows. You do your best. Frown a little. Think about the time you left your real mother crying at the train station. That usually does it. You thumb through a book on cathedrals, pretending to be interested in architecture when you're really listening for footsteps, or sirens, or the sound of someone calling your fake name in a too familiar voice. It's in that dusty corner between Notre Dame and the Sacré-Cœur that it hits you. There's no going back. You've officially crossed the threshold. The resistance has pulled you in like a slow tide, and now you're part of it. This city is your battlefield. The lamps glow weakly behind their blackout hoods, and the streets smell like soot and damp wool. You're not scared. Not exactly. Fear implies a future. You're just present, ultra-present, hyper-aware that every step you take might be your last. You think about your mother and the real name you haven't heard in weeks. You wonder if anyone still uses it. You don't have answers. You only have orders, and today you completed them. And your grave, maybe? A quirky fact? One resistance group once tried to build explosives hidden inside hollowed-out cheese wheels. It didn't work too crumbly. But someone spent weeks perfecting it before finally admitting defeat to the Camembert. French innovation, meet French dairy. By the time you leave the bookstore, it's dusk. Tomorrow, you'll get more. The next morning starts with fog, both outside and in your head. You didn't sleep. Again. The springs in your mattress sound like someone stepping on a dying accordion. And your window whistles just enough to make you wonder if it's wind or a spy with asthma. You dress in layers. Not for warmth, it's spring, but because layers hide things. Papers, pills, notes. And because you've lost so much weight on the resistance. Diet that your old coat fits like a borrowed overcoat from someone you don't like. You've received a message. Today, you're Jean, a widow. It's easier to act like you've lost someone when you actually have. You tell yourself stories about André when you can't sleep. You head toward your rendezvous spot, an old hat shop near the Seine, run by a woman named Lorette, who's been closing down for renovations for nearly 2 years. She hands you a new ration card, forged ID papers, and a tin of sardines. You head out, this time toward the southern edge of town. Then you see him. The carnation's faded, almost pink. He scratches his right ear. You eat half a sardine, stare at the ceiling, and whisper to yourself, Jean Martin, widow, piano teacher, March 5th, 1909. Like a prayer, the pigeons in Paris are unusually nosy. One of them watches you from a windowsill as you tie your shoes the next morning, as if judging your knot technique. The message reads, Courier needed, 3 p.m. Meet near St. Lazare. Ask for Eloise's perfume. It's in code, of course. You're not told what you're delivering. Again, you try not to wonder. You suspect it's a message, maybe microfilm, maybe a note tucked into the folds of a used theater program. Once, it was a thumb-sized radio crystal hidden in a soap dish. Another time, it was a map etched into the foil of a cigarette pack. Today, it's a baguette. Yes, a literal loaf of bread. You rehanded it by a teenage boy with a missing tooth and too many freckles to be trustworthy. He shoves the baguette into your hands and mutters, warm, just baked, which is code for, there's something inside. You hope not. It's very stale. Well, not your real one, but one of your aliases. Jean Martin, widow, piano teacher. Some resistance fighters used goats to smuggle notes between farms. The notes were hidden under collars, protected by wax paper and stubbornness. Once, a goat named Mireille allegedly saved an entire unit by refusing to walk toward a checkpoint guard. It smells like moldy straw and horse ghosts. Etienne grunts hello and hands you a sack. You don't talk about the dogs, or the snipers, or the trains that come early sometimes, because the Germans like surprises. Inside, a wrench, a tiny vial of grease, and 3 stubby sticks of dynamite. Some say yes, they disrupted supply chains and morale. Others say the Germans adapted quickly, but nobody argues the bravery it took to do them. You're not a soldier. You're a civilian with a borrowed wrench and shaking hands. And yet here you are. You whisper the timing into your mind. 10 minutes. That's all you've got. Etienne is already moving down the line. Claire covers him. You finish your part and crawl back, belly scraping gravel. You bite your lip to stop the noise. Your elbow finds a bolt. You don't yell. A shot rings out behind you, not aimed, just angry. You don't stop. If caught, they could blow it into the faces of guards, a makeshift eye irritant. Etienne keeps his in a little tin. He shows it off like it's a family heirloom. You don't breathe until you're back in the stable, curled behind a hay bale, heart kicking like it's trying to escape your ribs. Etienne is laughing, coughing at the same time. Claire is pale, but smiling. You look at each other, and for a moment, you're not strangers anymore. You're survivors. Good. You nod as if this is normal. Because now, it is. Her voice is quiet, but the words warm your whole body. Your knees are scraped. You can't feel your fingers, but you're smiling. A real one. Tonight, you made a dent, and you didn't die. Not for warmth, for fingerprints. Claire hands you the dynamite. Your fingers fumble. She steadies your hand, nods once. Claire barely makes a sound, her coat whispering with each movement. You try to stay focused, but your heart is staging a jazz solo in your chest. Every footstep, every breeze. Somewhere, a dog barks. Too close. Etienne mutters something unhelpful in Old Breton. Claire presses her hand to your shoulder. The rail yard is enormous. Quiet. Too quiet. Tracks stretch like black veins under a hazy moon. A siren blares. Claire grabs your hand, and you run. A single bulb flickers above the maintenance shed, casting jittery shadows. The guard thought she was cursed. The unit escaped. You stare at it for a long time, the way people stare at open windows when they're not sure if the breeze is friendly or fatal. The one you actually write in has harmless things recipes, letters to your imaginary son, André, and a long critique of your neighbor's accordion technique. You eat a tin of gray beans and drink a cup of water so tepid it tastes like dust and disappointment. Wear gloves, which is resistance shorthand for tonight you're committing sabotage. Try not to die loudly. You lie down in your clothes, too tired to undress, too scared to be caught unprepared. The list curls slightly in the cool air, the ink beginning to feather at the edges. And in the morning, when you open your curtains just a crack, the pigeon is there again, watching. You spend the morning staring at your boots. They're cracked at the toe and smell faintly of vinegar. One is called Etienne, who speaks like he's always chewing something unpleasant. The other is Claire, whose voice is so soft you sometimes wonder if you imagined her. Her eyes, though sharp enough to etch steel. The left one squeaks when it's humid, which is unfortunate because Paris has been a damp, gray sponge of a city for the past 4 days. You consider stuffing newspaper into them, but the only paper you have is coated, and reading it might make the boots radioactive. You nod and carry it like it's a priceless sculpture, fragile and essential. You're not supposed to check, but you do. Carefully in a quiet alley. Inside, hollowed out and filled with a tight scroll of thin paper, is a list of names. 5 to be exact. One of them is underlined. Your stomach turns. You recognize the name. It's yours. Historians still argue whether courier routes were deliberately randomized or just consistently chaotic. The truth? A bit of both. Routes changed constantly, but paranoia made it feel random. But now you're thinking if your name is on that list, who wrote it? And why? Are you being watched? Are you a dead woman delivering her own obituary? Sometimes packages went in boots. sometimes in bicycle handlebars, and yes, sometimes in bread, especially when people stopped looking inside food. He's playing something sad and sweet, something you almost recognize. You drop a coin. He nods once. That's a sign. He's part of the network. Maybe he knows you saw the list. Maybe he doesn't. You make the handoff on a park bench beneath a tree that drops leaves like it is shedding secrets. A woman in a red scarf sits down, opens her purse, and sneezes twice. You set the baguette beside her and walk away. You don't look back. You rewrap the baguette and walk. Slowly, casually, like it's lunch. You pass a street violinist. You wonder if she'd eat it after. A quirky fact? Back at your flat, you hide your real journal behind a loose tile under the sink. You dream of bread, of names, of goats wearing little capes and carrying secrets. You lace up anyway. The note from last night, it was tucked under your pillow like a grim little bedtime story. Reads simply, Rail Yard, 11 p.m. Bring tools. You're assigned to a 3-person team. The others are new to you. You meet them at an old stable on the edge of the 12th arrondissement. The plan is simple. Sneak into the yard, damage the coupling pins on the German supply train, and get out before the guards finish their cigarettes. Historians still argue whether these sabotage missions made a measurable impact on the war effort. Etienne leads the way, belly low to the ground like a grumpy badger. Claire signals stop. You all crouch behind a stack of crates. Etienne peeks out, then gestures. Now. You run low and fast to the undercarriage of the first train. It smells like grease and cold metal. You slip your gloves on. You wedge the charge into place beneath the coupling pin, exactly like you were shown. As the 3 of you regroup behind a coal cart, the world feels louder. Time's up. You hear it first a deep thunk, then metal screaming as the coupling gives. The train jolts violently, separating mid-line. Running through gravel is like running in a nightmare. Your feet won't listen, your lungs won't help. A fringe fact, resistance fighters often carried cotton soaked in pepper inside matchboxes. You did well, Claire says. You feel 10 feet tall and completely wrecked. You limp home before dawn. Your boots are ruined. That train will be late. The Germans will shout. And somewhere, a fellow fighter will whisper mercy into their cup of bitter coffee. Your hands still smell like engine grease when you wake up. It's seeped into your cuticles, your pillow, even your dreams where trains scream and boots thunder, and Claire's quiet voice says, Go, now. No running, no explosives, no close calls with a German shepherd named Blitz. Just a quiet day with letters and lavender. The decoding takes place in a florist's back room, behind a shelf of slightly wilting roses. A perfect fit for the resistance, really. You hum as you work, tracing letters with the worn nib of your pen. Slowly, the messages emerge. The first is a supply update. Ammunition shortage in the south. Truth is, it's impossible to tell. Betrayal didn't wear a uniform. It wore cardigans and baked cookies. Luke sees your face. The last one, you fold and slip into your shoe. Claire will need to see it. But before you go, Luke hands you a tiny bundle wrapped in waxed cloth. Perfume sample, he says with a wink. Another code. You nod, pocket it, and leave with the kind of casual slowness you've practiced to perfection. They think she's turned. Claire doesn't blink. I know, she says. She vanished 2 nights ago. Bad news? He asks. You nod. He doesn't press. Smart boy. Usual. The second is a request. Confirm safe house in Limoges. Also usual. But the third? That one makes your fingers pause. Claire kisses your cheek. It's rare. It rattles you. Or worse still, alive, but hollowed out by choices. You can't think about it. You just keep walking. You have a new message to deliver tomorrow. You walk home slowly, through twilight, where the shadows feel too long and the shutters blink like eyes. When someone's gaze lingers too long. When a shoe squeaks twice on the cobblestones. Their code phrase is, "I hear the fish are early this year." You're supposed to respond, "Only the sardines." When the silence shifts in a way that suggests it isn't really silence anymore. Most evidence leans toward a chaotic genius, a network of loosely connected improvisers, winging it with charm and panic. The smell of yeast and old sugar makes your stomach growl. You buy a roll. It's hard as marble. You gnaw at it anyway. The baker gives you a look part sympathy, part suspicion. You nod politely and leave. You've personally winged it at least 6 times this week. Same man, hat lower, now pretending to read a newspaper at the corner cafe. Your sixth sense buzzes like a broken radio. Something's wrong. "Only the sardines," you reply. You wave an apology and duck into an alley that smells like spoiled wine and stray cats. You press your back to the wall, heart slamming. He's following. Your mind spins. Was he resistance? Was the phrase wrong? Was he testing you? That sense is humming now as you make your way through the Marche de Liger, pretending to compare cabbages while scanning for tails. Down through alleyways that reek of cat piss and burnt onions. Through a courtyard with 3 broken bicycles and 1 very fat rooster. Past a shoe repair shop that never seems to repair shoes. Claire pours you something that might be tea or boiled weeds. You drink it anyway. Parisians jostle, bargain, and complain, their voices mingling with the clatter of crates and the laughter of children, chasing one another between barrels of wilted greens. It's over in seconds. He nods, turns, disappears. You continue shopping as if you care whether the carrots are soft. To any outsider, it's business as usual. But to you, it's a chessboard. The mug says "Vive la France" in cracked red paint. You approach with the mirror tucked inside your coat pocket. Next to your ID, a slice of stale bread and 2 aspirin you've been saving since December. You wonder whose cupboard it came from. Who isn't using it anymore? Claire is waiting by the shutters when you arrive. She lets you in with one hand on a knife hidden in her apron. Standard greeting. And a sign that reads, "Closed until the rain stops," which is French resistance for "open, if you know the knock." A woman is being questioned over a sack of potatoes that apparently weighs too much. You pass them without flinching, eyes down, heart beating like it's tapping Morse code. But it's a new day, and in occupied Paris, survival depends on behaving like it's just another Tuesday. Claire takes the folded note from your shoe, reads it, and nods. "We'll close cell 47. Start fresh." Just like that. No mourning, no outburst, just the quiet efficiency of survival. So you scrub your hands until they're raw, pinch your cheeks to look less like death warmed over, and tuck your forged identity papers into your coat pocket. Today's task feels easier. Decode 3 messages and pass one along to your handler. Inside, it smells of damp petals, drying leaves, and the faint trace of perfume. Your handler isn't here, but a boy named Luke is. A woman once smuggled a full invasion plan inside a cutout of Chanel ad. The Germans thought it was cologne. It was a storm. He can't be older than 17, and he looks like someone who's been through too much to be that clean. He offers you a stool and a smile. You sit. You don't smile back. He opens a biscuit tin, and there they are. 3 handwritten notes on brittle paper, each one folded in a precise little triangle. The ink has smudged slightly in the damp. You grab your cipher sheet and get to work. The code today is based on the first lines of Baudelaire's asterisk, "Les fleurs du mal." It's romantic, it's slightly bleak. Suspected informant in cell 47. Possible alias, Camille Fournier. Proceed with caution. Your stomach turns. Camille was at the printing press 3 weeks ago. She shared a sandwich with you, laughed at your joke about the fake cream cakes. She has a birthmark on her left temple and smelled like peppermints in printer's ink. Historians still argue whether the resistance did enough to weed out informants, or if paranoia destroyed more lives than spies did. You burn the 2 completed messages. Standard protocol. The streets are busier than usual. German soldiers are posted at the metro station, smoking and laughing too loudly. You take a long route to Claire's safe house. Camille, you whisper, once the door clicks shut. That's the resistance for you, always one step ahead of your worst fears. You sit for a moment, letting your nerves settle. A quirky fact? Resistance messages were sometimes disguised as perfume advertisements. The Germans rarely checked cosmetics too frivolous. You leave before curfew, tucking your scarf high and your chin low. You decoded 3 messages today, but the one that stays with you is the one you didn't write, the one where a friend might be a ghost. You begin to develop a 6th sense, not for danger, exactly, but for attention. Your mission is simple. Pass a microfilm hidden inside a compact mirror to someone you then never met. The market is bustling. You spot him near the smoked fish stand tall, hat too low, pretending to be fascinated by dried eels. Fish are early this year, he murmurs, not looking up. You resist the urge to glance around. You pass the compact into his shopping bag while pretending to adjust your scarf. Historians still argue whether the French resistance succeeded because of rigid planning or improvisation. You duck into a bakery next to reinforce the cover. And that's when you spot him again. You cross the street too quickly. A car honks. You take 3 turns, pass a laundromat where a woman is hanging out socks that spell stop in Morse code. Could be coincidence. Probably isn't. You slip through a butcher's shop and out the back. The blood on the floor is real, but the hanging meat is mostly bone. You've memorized this route. Every shortcut. Every gate. You loop around 2 city blocks and dive into a church. Once inside, the silence wraps around you like a thick coat. You breathe through your nose. Incense, candle wax, dust. The priest nods without looking. You kneel in the 3rd pew, whisper a prayer you don't believe in, and wait. 10 minutes. No sign of him. You're not proud of how much your hands are shaking. Eventually, you rise and leave through the side door. But they don't leave. One taps again, knuckles brushing the wood like a lullaby. The other lights a cigarette and exhales like he owns the building. Then a voice. Mademoiselle Martin. Just a few questions. They know your name. Or at least one of them. She know what to do. You look around the room, this tiny collection of lies and thin blankets, and prepare to open the door. The kind of smile that says, I'm just a harmless woman in slippers. Please don't shoot me in front of the wallpaper. The man on the left has a clipboard. The one on the right is smoking and scanning the room like he already doesn't to trust it. Their boots are clean. Too clean. Gestapo. Probably. It's 4:12 M, and someone is at your door. Be careful, Madame Martin, he says. Of what? You ask, too quickly. They leave. You close the door. Lock it. Double lock it. You sit down on the floor and wait. For the footsteps to fade. For your lungs to remember how breathing works. A few questions for the registry. You nod. Of course. Do you mind if I sit? You burn them in a chipped ashtray, using the tiny emergency match UV, kept in your bra since January. Pages full of coded thoughts and practice signatures. And Andre, your imaginary son, who once caught a fever and recovered after eating 3 imaginary oranges. It smells like panic and rubber. Clipboard waves his hand like it's beneath him to care. Mismatched. Your heart dives straight into your stomach. You forgot to change them. You sit. You move quietly, slowly, as if any sudden motion might shatter the air. You glance through the peephole. Name. You hand them over with fingers that don't shake. Not visibly. No, you say, just me and the pigeons. The smoker flips through them. his face unreadable. You study his expression like it's a sheet of music. You think he hesitates just a second on the photo. Age, employment, widow, you say. Piano teacher. I teach children, mostly. Hopefully. Outside, the pigeons are having a conference near the steps, as if reviewing your performance. You nod at them like you're fine. You wonder what's real anymore. Who's safe? Who's hunting you? Whether you're becoming paranoid or just finally seeing things as they are. Back at your flat, you bolt the door, shut the curtains, and sink to the floor. Some say it was pure terror that kept people obedient, because the Gestapo wasn't everywhere, but people acted like it was. That's the scariest part. You never knew when a visit was routine, and when it wasn't. You have no idea who that man was. A quirky resistance trick. Some members wore mismatched shoelaces as a low-key way to identify each other. Red in the left, black in the right. You tried it once, but stopped after a German soldier commented on your cute shoes. Never again. You lie on your lumpy bed, eyes fixed on the ceiling crack that looks vaguely like Corsica. You did your job today. The microfilm is gone, but the man wasn't right. Tomorrow, you'll report it to Claire. Outside, the market quiets. The church bells ring in the distance. Somewhere, a car door slams. Somewhere else, a child laughs. You roll over, grip your fake ID tight in one hand, and wait for sleep. It doesn't come. The knock is soft, like a question. You're already awake. You never really slept. 2 men, dark coats, no expressions. Not neighbors, not resistance, not good. You don't answer. You move back into the room. Quietly push your forged IDs under the floorboard. Stuff your journal between the mattress and the wall. Take a long breath. When you do, you smile. It's not a happy smile. It's a survival smile. Routine check, clipboard says. They begin with easy questions. They ask to see your papers. Then he looks at your shoes. Nice laces, red and black. He stares at them for a beat too long. Clipboard is still asking questions about your ration card, about whether you've had visitors lately. He doesn't laugh. Probably doesn't like pigeons. Historians still argue whether the Gestapo's real power came from fear or actual surveillance. Smoker takes one more drag and flicks ash onto your floor. He doesn't answer. A full 10 minutes pass before you peel off the shoelaces. The floorboard creaks. You stare at it. Eventually, you move, dig out the journal. It's still there. You hold the book close. It's the only real thing left of you. And it's fiction? A quirky tidbit? Some resistance members kept backup lives, written down scripts they'd memorized like actors. Favorite foods, birthdays, details about fake relatives. If you had to lie, you had to lie well. Can't risk being here if they come back with more questions and fewer cigarettes. Not safe. You don't stop. Instead, you drift through the city. One more ghost among many. A convincing lie needs seasoning. Your mother liked roses. Your uncle played the violin. You got married during a rainstorm. None of it true. All of it essential. But today, even you aren't sure. You walk through it anyway. Coat collar turned up, hat pulled low, as Paris surrenders to another day of wet cobblestones and muffled sirens. The attic is cold and smells of glue and old parchment. Rehearsing your fake family tree. Making sure your blackout diary is still well hidden. A cot. A kettle. A single oil lamp. You could survive here for days if you had to. You might have to. You pace for hours. Dawn bleeds into the sky like diluted wine. At 7 a.m, you leave the apartment. That means stay away. Also, instructions, addresses, coded notes from Claire that you haven't dared destroy. It's dangerous to keep, but more dangerous to forget. No note, no signal. You need somewhere else. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere your name, whichever one you're using, doesn't mean anything. You head for Claire's safe house. The shutters are closed to signal. You sit on a bench in the Luxembourg Gardens. You haven't been there in months. You hope it's still there. The shop looks the same. Tired windows, dusty glass, a bell that tinkles like a weak heartbeat. The shopkeeper glances up, doesn't recognize you. Good. You say, "I'm looking for something bound in red leather." And he nods without blinking, motions toward the back. That's the phrase. That's the key. Pigeons gather, of course. You break off a piece of stale bread and toss it. One bird jumps on it like it's foie gras. You wonder, did they believe you? Or did they just let you go because they already have what they need? You're a good liar. The rain begins before noon. Thin, annoying rain that doesn't fall. It drifts sideways and sneaky, like it's trying not to be noticed. Claire's safe house is still shuttered. So you go to the backup, an attic above a bookbinder shop near Montparnasse. You climb the narrow wooden stairs, each one creaking like it's tattling. You pull your satchel around and begin what's become a ritual, checking your forged documents. The diary is small, bound in black cloth, filled with your looping handwriting and the stories of your imaginary son. You light the lamp, pull the curtains tight, and begin transcribing. Tonight, you're copying a note from a contact in Lyon into a fresh passbook. It's in lemon juice once heated. It reveals a message. Agent Marcel detained. Possible compromise. Adjust plans. You press your lips together and inhale through your nose. Agent Marcel. You met him once. Nervous. Smelled like boot polish and mints. He was the one who spilled coffee on the wireless set during a drop. You'd laughed. He might be dead now. You copy the message slowly, carefully. You practice the forged signature 3 times before writing it for real. It's gone now. Unrecoverable. That's how everything feels lately. Half-formed in the end. Lemon was preferred for its clarity. Historians still argue whether the use of lemon juice, ink was more effective than other homemade invisibles, like milk or urine. But all were used. The real issue was heat. If you heated it too fast, the message charred. You move silently to the edge of the attic. Press your ear to the floorboards. Nothing. You wait. Still nothing. Too slow, and it faded before it finished appearing. Sabotage by saucepan. You press the edges flat and hum to yourself. Something light, something untraceable. 3 new names. You use a different handwriting style for each, just in case someone intercepts it and tries to piece together identities. You seal it in an envelope and tuck it under the loose brick near the stove. You've trained for this. Still, your wrist aches with the effort of pretending to be 5 different people. You light the tiny stove and hold the original paper over it, watching the rest of the message fade into silence. Fragile. One wrong move and the whole thing disappears. Some resistance members used menstrual pads to hide microfilm and secret messages. German officers rarely searched there. It became a running joke among couriers. No man would dare look too closely at the truth. You've never had to use that method yourself, but you admire the logic. You write a new list of safe house rotations based on this new risk. That's the win. That's always the win. You pause to eat half a biscuit. It tastes like sawdust. You eat it anyway. A quirky detail? Today, you're playing a role, maybe your strangest yet, a mourner. Real priest, real grave, real tears. The body? Resistance. Shot in the street last week. Listed as civilian casualty. His name was Henry, though everyone called him Coco. A floorboard creaks below. You freeze. The shopkeeper? A customer? Or something else? Eventually, you force yourself to breathe again. You go back to your work, but slower now, watching the corners, listening for sounds that shouldn't be there. You write the rest of the addresses, fold them, tuck them into the lining of your coat, stitched into a secret seam you reinforced with wax thread. He tripped over a chicken and still managed to hand off the goods while laughing. You make a copy of Claire's last known safe house location, just in case someone might need it, maybe even you. The rain picks up. It taps the windows like it wants to be let in. You don't light a second lamp. Too risky. Instead, you lie on the cot and listen. To the rain, to your own heartbeat, to the ghost of Marcel's nervous laugh. You're safe, for now. But the city is a net, and you can feel it tightening. The knock doesn't come. Not tonight. Instead, the silence settles deep and thick in the attic, like it's cushioning every sound. You wake up with a jolt, not because of noise, but because there wasn't any. No bells, no boots, no market carts, just the distant hiss of rain and your own heartbeat trying to win a sprint. You sit up slowly. Your back is stiff from the cot. Your right hand is cramped from the writing. But you're still alive. Today's mission is different. It doesn't involve maps or microfilm. There's a funeral. You only met him once. During a food drop, it went wrong and ended in sprinting. He gets a proper burial. That's rare. Your job is to blend in, sit among the mourners, pass a note. Yes, a note. Folded inside a prayer card. You'll hand it to a woman named Vivian when the priest begins the Lord's Prayer. She'll be wearing a green coat with a brooch shaped like a dove. You're not to speak. Just weep quietly and move on. You walk to the church with your head bowed not in mourning, but in strategy. Tight. The pews groan under the weight of collective exhaustion. You count the mourners. 12. One too many, maybe. It's strange, preparing to grieve someone you barely knew. You borrow a black veil. You stand, step forward. Some priests were resistance. Others weren't. Some switch sides depending on who was in the pews. The truth, as usual, is muddy. Slide the card into Vivian's purse as you pass. Your coat still smells like lemon juice and ink. The funeral is small. Past flower sellers, past a boy playing accordion for a coin he won't get. You give him one anyway. You wait. Time slows. She sits 2 rows ahead, her back straight, her hair perfectly pinned. The dove brooch gleams dully in the candlelight. Once lit, the messages were revealed as they melted. One sentence. You check the safe house list for changes. You move one address to the burn, if compromised column. You don't like how close it is to the train yard. One contact, one chance. There's a man near the back who hasn't blinked in a while. You file him away. Just in case. About how someone had to fake enough tears for a dozen people today. You write his name in the back of the diary. No dates. Just a name. A soft place to land. Vivian arrives late. You don't make eye contact. You walk like someone with errands, but no urgency. You smell like rain, ink, and a hint of burned candle wax. The priest drones. Latin rolls through the air like sleepwalking. You focus on the note in your sleeve. The Lord's Prayer begins. She doesn't move. You sit back down. You don't breathe until the final amen. Historians still argue whether churches were safe havens or surveillance nests during the occupation. What matters today is that the priest nods to you on the way out like he knows. Like he won't tell. Outside, the air is heavy. Vivian slips into the crowd and vanishes before you can confirm the handoff worked. It's covered in tiny pencil-marked dates, times, a rough drawing of a bridge used to cross every Tuesday. You don't follow. That's the rule. You never follow. You never check. You walk the long way, back to the attic. He plays something sweet and off-key. It reminds you of Claire. Back upstairs, you pour the last of the tea into a chipped cup and stare at the wall. You mark today's success with a single line. You wonder how many lines will fit before this wall belongs to someone else. A quirky truth. Some resistance members baked notes into loaves of bread. But others used candles, small, hollowed candles with wax tops. You tried it once, burned your fingers, learned quickly. You read your journal again, just a few pages. The night settles in with a groan. Your lamp flickers. You think about Coco. You didn't cry, but you wanted to. You think about Vivian, about whether she read the note, whether she passed it on. You think about Claire. You haven't heard from her in days. You think about sleep. It doesn't come. Not yet. By the end of the week, you've become invisible. That's not poetic. It's practical. You speak softly. You smile only when absolutely required. You've learned the art of being so aggressively unremarkable that no one remembers you were there. You've become boring, which, under Nazi occupation, is a superpower. Today's task is to blend in harder than ever. Claire sends word through a passing fruit seller. It is time for the milk run. The danger is baked into the routine. You're hiding in plain sight, surrounded by uniforms and gossip. If it's intercepted, every scheduled drop could be ambushed. Every agent in the zone compromised. It's written in a substitution cipher and baked, yes, again into a tiny loaf of coarse bread. You hate the milk run. Everyone does. It sounds innocent. It is not. The resistance uses it to describe a daylight passed through carrying sensitive documents in public spaces while pretending to be a mundane, possibly underpaid, definitely exhausted Parisian. Your job is to wait for her to drop her cigarette. You wait. You sip your coffee. The bells would jingle as the coat tumbled, drawing attention away from the agent. The practice was eventually banned. Too cheerful. You check reflections in shop windows, the shine on cafe doors, the twitch of a curtain. You see no one. You still don't relax. It's more water than brew. You eat it while rereading a message from Claire. Meeting delayed. Change locations. Use the painter's loft. You sigh. That means packing. Again, no sounds. Just that heavy Paris silence, thick with soot and worry. A few soldiers pass. The windows rattle. You love it instantly. Your diet depends entirely on ration cards, black market bartering, and sheer luck. Today, you're hoping for a potato. Maybe even two, if your charm is working. One winks at you. It looks like a tiny cube of hope. You don't eat it. Not yet. You cry because today, you didn't forget who you were pretending to be. You try the potato seller first. He squints at you. A woman hangs laundry between two windows, humming something slow and sad. A boy runs past with a baguette that's longer than his arm and almost certainly stolen. Your cover job. The painter's loft faces east, and for once, the Paris sky isn't sulking. The beams spill across the wooden floor, catching dust in the air like lazy fireflies. You get a spoonful of butter. Real butter. You almost cry. You wrap it in wax paper and cradle it like a relic. He doesn't smile back. Feeding yourself under occupation is a small rebellion. A daily middle finger to scarcity. The cafe's layout. The password. You remembered you. And tomorrow, you'll have to do it all over again. The photo of Andre you drew yourself, just in case someone asks for proof. His smile is lopsided. That feels accurate. You smile back, not too wide, then drop. If she does, you go to her, help pick it up, and pass her the bread. If she doesn't, abort the handoff. Get rid of the loaf. Burn it. Eat it. Drop it in the river. No cigarette. No handoff. Ah, right. Reality. And carry it 5 blocks to a cafe near the Seine. Your contact is a woman dressed as a nun. She isn't a nun. You know this because real nuns rarely smoke hand-rolled cigarettes and mutter curses in 3 languages. Today's document? A list of supply drop zones for the next 2 weeks. Most didn't. They were taught on the go. Make eye contact only if needed. Never speak the passphrase aloud. And if you get caught, say you're delivering lunch to your sick aunt. and cry if necessary. You nod, and that's it. Job done. You sit back down, finish the coffee, pay the bill, leave a coin, leave no trace. You begin at a dairy shop in the 15th arrondissement. Pick up the milk. This one once stabbed a German officer in the thigh with a knitting needle and told you about it over soup. You sit 2 tables away. It's almost elegant. The cigarette rolls under the table like a cue ball. You're up, smooth, graceful. You murmur, "Allow me." And as your hand reaches the floor, you press the bread into the folds of her bag. She thanks you. Historians still debate whether the resistance had formal training for public handoffs. A quirky trick? Some agents tied bells inside their coat hems. If chased, they'd drop the coat. You leave the cafe and walk until your legs ache. You turn corners instinctively. You double back. At home, well, what counts as home this week? You make a pot of soup out of boiled onion peels and half a carrot. You gather your things. The diary. The false IDs. The small tin of aspirin. You wrap everything in a scarf, place it in the bottom of your satchel, and check the hallway before opening your door. You move to the painter's loft 2 blocks away. It smells like turpentine and dreams that never dried properly. The stairs are steep. You light a candle. You sit. You breathe. Then you cry, quietly, just for a minute, not because of fear, or grief, or hunger. You remembered your alias. You wake up with sunlight in your eyes and something even rarer warmth. For a second, you let yourself believe you're just a woman in a borrowed apartment, admiring the morning. Then your stomach growls, loudly, rudely. The resistance doesn't offer meal plans. You dig through your bag and find a wrinkled ration card, 3 centimes, and a piece of hard sugar you've been saving for 6 weeks. Outside, Paris is already moving. Bicycles rattle by. You head toward Rue de Guerre. There's a market there that sometimes has extras if you ask the right way. How many teeth you want with it? Just one, you say. He hands you a potato the size of a child's fist. You give him your last coin and a smile. Food is its own resistance. Next stop, the dairy cart. The milk is thin and tastes like betrayal. But today, you're lucky. Back at the loft, you boil the potato. Add a pinch of salt clare left behind in a folded napkin. You mash it into a cup and smear it with the butter. You take 1 bite and nearly faint from the joy. Butter, I feel rich. You slice it open carefully, the blade gliding through waxy white until paper peeks out like bone. The note is short. New drop point. Corner of Rue Vavin and Rue Brie. 6 p.m. red umbrella equals safe. I feel alive. Historians still argue whether the French diet during the occupation truly deteriorated or just changed forms. Technically, it was possible to survive barely. But morale, energy, and health declined rapidly. You write about it in your diary. You've seen it in the pale faces, the sunken eyes, the brittle fingernails. Then add, Andre would have licked the spoon. Your imaginary son has a hearty appetite. Today, I ate like a queen. A potato and butter. You pause. In the afternoon, a message arrives in a bar of soap. Courier compromised. Children play with a hoop and stick. A woman in her 60s holds it, gloved hands wrapped around the handle. You check your watch. 3 hours. Enough time to memorize a new route, eat another spoonful of victory butter, and tie your shoes with even tighter knots. You head out early. Take the long way. The city is golden in the late daylight. Couples sit on benches. Heads close. Around the corner, you stop and check the item. It's a tin of sardines. Of course it is. She smiles at you, then drops her glove. That's the sign. You bend to pick it up. Inside, a tightly rolled page of contact names, each linked to a location. You scan them quickly. Some are old, Some are missing. One is new. As you hand it to her, she slips something into your coat pocket. A German patrol passes by on bicycles, laughing. It feels fake, like a film reel you've seen before. At Rue Vavin, you spot the umbrella, bright red, standing still like a defiant flame. Her hair is white and pinned perfectly. Merci, mademoiselle, she says. Pas de quoi, you reply. You keep walking. You don't open it until you're back in the loft. Claire, she's alive. Then you burn it. Watch the smoke twist like handwriting. There's a location balloon. If searched, they'd pretend it was a snack. Once, a Gestapo officer opened one, gagged at the smell, and let the agent go. Disgust, the unsung hero of espionage. It's a quiet spot, a little too quiet. No radio, no chatter, just the soft clink of porcelain, and the occasional hiss from the espresso machine like it's gossiping under its breath. A cafe, a time. You order a coffee you want to drink and fold your hands around the cup so the waitress doesn't ask questions. Then you wait. No hug, no smile. Just a whispered, "They know about cell 47. She studies you like she's assessing a photograph. "You're still here," she says finally. "That's good. Tomorrow." Others believe it was the only reason any of them survived. In truth, the fragmentation was messy, but essential. Safety lay in forgetting, in letting go of everything and everyone, until you were a lone thread floating just out of reach. Claire walks in like a ghost, returning to her own house. She sips it like it's medicine. We need someone to do the first run. New courier line. South of the city. It's risky. She's thinner. Her coat hangs from her shoulders, like it doesn't belong to her. But her eyes, they're still sharp. Still Claire. You press the paper to your chest, just for a second. Not relief, not worry. Just acknowledgement. She passes you another napkin. This one smells faintly of perfume. There's a name on it, and an address, and a time. A quirky truth? Some resistance agents carried sardine tins with real fish and fake documents. It's stale, but softer than usual. Maybe that's something. She gives you a small tin of jam. You once ate a raspberry spread that tasted suspiciously like soup. This one tastes like fruit and defiance. You eat it straight from the tin with your finger. Apricot. For morale, she says. Whatever it was ugly, and it left marks you can't see. You write in your diary, "Today I ate butter. Tomorrow I see Claire. I might cry, or I might make her soup." You lie down with your stomach full and your heart halfway there. Sleep comes slowly, but this time it comes. You arrive at the cafe in Boulogne 10 minutes early, heart pacing you the entire way. You take a seat in the far corner, back to the wall, just like Claire taught you. A bell tinkles. The door opens. She slides into the chair across from you. You nod. I figured. Vivian confirmed it at the funeral. Inside, scrawled in tiny ink, Cell 48 is forming. We're starting over. New routes, new names. You in? She raises an eyebrow. You were at Henry's funeral? You nod again. That's Claire speak for "I'm glad you're alive." You don't ask where she's been. You don't need to. She reaches into her coat and pulls out a folded napkin. You meet her eyes, always. Historians still argue whether the constant reshuffling of resistance cells helped or hindered operations. Some say it made coordination impossible. Claire orders tea. Real leaves, maybe. You already know who she's going to ask. "I'll do it," she exhales. You slip it into your sleeve. You eat a roll while Claire talks logistics. A quirky truth? During the occupation, black market jam was sometimes mixed with mashed carrots to stretch it. After the meeting, you and Claire don't part like old friends. You don't embrace. You don't linger. She stands first. Says, "Stay gray." You nod. "Stay dull. That's your thing." That's how you say I love you. Be safe. You wear your dullest dress. You carry a satchel of laundry supplies that happens to contain 2 fake passports, and a list of alternate supply routes scribbled on the inside of a soap wrapper. Come back. She leaves without looking back. You head south. The journey takes you through the edge of Paris and into the worn countryside, where the air smells like mud and chimney smoke. She gives you a blanket and a lantern and tells you not to talk unless someone knocks twice and whistles. You arrive at the rendezvous spot, a faded farmhouse, crumbling around the edges. Inside the stick, rolled film. She smiles and says, "Don't trip." You laugh. A woman with strong hands and sad eyes welcomes you inside. You stay the night. The attic smells like apples and mildew. You hum. You wave at a passing cyclist. You stop to buy a single onion so your bag looks useful. Like you've always been here. Like you belong. Like you're no one. You whisper your fake name to the ceiling just to hear it. The other in uniform. Clean boots. Not Gestapo, but military police. Worse, sometimes it burns. No warning. No knock. Just a sharp rap at the bakery door you are using as a back exit, and then boots on the stairs. Too many. You feel alive. UD just finished updating the courier map, and we're halfway through carving a false bottom into a drawer when everything fell quiet outside. Then the stairs. You count the turns, try to memorize the route, but everything blurs. Your hands sweat. You think of the map in the flower. You think of Claire. You think of Andre. You don't have time to run. Interrogation facility. Not official, not clean. A naked bulb hangs overhead like it's watching. Too quiet. In the morning, the woman hands you a bag of bread and a walking stick. You don't. You walk the 5 kilometers to the next town like someone running errands. You drop the stick into a barrel outside a bakery with a chalkboard that reads closed for fermentation. The delivery is complete. You eat the onion raw on the way home. Your fingers are still stained from the onion when they come for you. You're terribly boring. You're not at your apartment. You're at one of the safe flats above the old bakery in the 6th arrondissement. Then the knock. You scatter the papers into the flour bin, close the drawer, toss your jacket over the stove. Then you sit. They open the door without asking. 2 men, one in civilian clothes with a pinched face and cold eyes. "Jean Martin?" Says pinched face. You nod. "We have some questions. Come with us." You rise slowly, gripping the edge of the table like it's your job. You keep your voice steady. Some had military backgrounds. Others were school teachers, seamstresses, bakers. What mattered was nerve, grit, the ability to stare down a lie and wear it like truth. What is this about? They don't answer. They never do. Silence. Long stretches of nothing but ticking. One cough. A match struck and left to burn. Then questions again. Your name. Your address. Your mother's maiden name. You're marched down the stairs and into a black car. The building they bring you to isn't marked, but the iron door and sour smell are enough. Inside, you're led to a small room with 2 chairs and a table. They sit you down, offer nothing. The questions begin soft. Where were you yesterday? Who are your friends? What's your real name? You answer in dull tones. You're a piano teacher. You were visiting your cousin. You don't have many friends. They raise eyebrows, smile thinly. Then they bring out the envelope, the same one that carried the courier list, the one you thought you destroyed. Your blood turns to ice. It was found behind a dresser, pinched face says. You left in a hurry. You don't blink. That's not mine. He leans in. No. You meet his eyes. No. Historians still argue whether the best resistance members were trained or simply too stubborn to crack. You've been training for this every day you've been alive. They try new tactics. You give answers. false ones. They bring you coffee, cold, bitter. You drink it anyway. Keeps your hands busy. Pinched face tries a new route. We know about Andre. Your breath catches. Just a flicker. Sometimes it's just the slow, relentless pounding of your own heart in a locked room. He smiles, thinks he has you. We know he's not real. You stare down into the black coffee. Then why are you asking about him? He doesn't like that. The other man shifts, uneasy. They don't hit you. Not yet. That's not their style. Torture isn't always screaming. They leave you there, alone with the bulb, the bitter coffee, your pulse hammering against your ribs. You hum softly, a lullaby. You don't know the words, so you make them up as you go. Eventually, they return, this time with another folder. Inside, photos. Surveillance. One of Claire barely visible, crossing a street. For now, they take your shoes, the flour, the tin of jam. The way Claire smiled, just a little when you said yes. Your belt. Your mouth goes dry. You know her? You shake your head. Looks like my old piano student, but colder. The kind of cold that feels personal. Resistance prisoners often chewed buttons or scraps of cloth to stay quiet under stress. Some had rosaries made of string and dried beans, hidden in hems. One woman carved prayers into her fingernails with the edge of a coin. These are the men who collect confessions and call it diplomacy. Just a guard with a flashlight and too much cologne grunting, up. Widow, lives in Montparnasse. Has a son named Andre. He chuckles. Of course, the interview ends. They leave you in a concrete cell that smells like regret and bleach. You lie on the bench and breathe. Just breathe. A quirky fact? You don't have a coin. But you whisper your list of names under your breath, like beads. You don't sleep, but you rest your eyes. You mostly just drifted sideways into exhaustion for a few hours. You picture the map. You picture Andre's face. The way you drew it badly, but with love. You're still Jean Martin. You're still here. They move you in the dead of night. No warning. No explanation. You blink the sleep out of your eyes, though sleep is generous. You ask where you're going. He doesn't answer. You're marched down a corridor of peeling paint and flickering lights. At the end, a different room. Brighter, cleaner. You're told to sit. You do. The man who enters next wears a gray suit and a smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes. His accent is French, but polished. Collaborator. High-ranking. Probably works for the Abwehr German military intelligence. He carries a file. Of course he does. Jean Martin, he says, flipping a page. Piano teacher. He looks up. Tell me, how old is Andre now? You shrug. 8. 8? He smiles. Last week, someone said he was 6. At the depot run, things get weird. You're supposed to hand off a signal card to a man disguised as a postal clerk. You tap the counter twice. Only one of them reacts a blink. The tiniest pause. You choose him. But when you arrive, there are 2 clerks, and both look nervous. You hesitate. Undergarments meant abort the mission immediately. You slip the envelope beneath a parcel of fake soap and leave. You never find out if it was the right man. This one is named Serge. He doesn't like you. You don't blame him? A quirky fact? The resistance sometimes used laundry lines as signaling tools. Shirts meant safe. Socks meant danger. Heavier. You pass checkpoints, pretending you're a delivery girl. You sit on the floor and listen to the ticking of 5 different clocks. They all disagree. So do you. You hum. You joke with the guards. One tries to touch your shoulder. You laugh, pull away, call him charming. Then you walk faster. You once ran 3 blocks because a pair of knickers fluttered unexpectedly in the wind. Back in the clearing, you retrieve the container and load it onto a mule. not your first mule. The route back to Toulouse is slower. You return to the clockmaker's shop at dusk. This time, no gum, just a nod. You leave the satchel in the hollow of the back wall. Inside is everything, and nothing, and too much. Your eyes burn from lack of sleep, and your mouth tastes like train smoke and tinned carrots. You don't sleep. She's trimming roses, her scissors clicking like tiny metronomes. About what comes next? You leave Toulouse before the clocks agree on what time it is. The final drop site is in Chartres, near the cathedral, an ancient stone behemoth that somehow hasn't collapsed under the weight of this war. The resistance contact there is an elderly woman known only as Maman Renard Mother Fox. No one seems to know her real name. No one asks. You travel mostly at night now, hiding in train lavatories, trading fabricated sob stories for empty seats. You've become excellent at crying on command. Your imaginary children have died at least 3 times this week in various tragic and increasingly creative ways. Most people don't ask follow-up questions. By the time you reach Chartres, your face feels like a mask. You find Maman Renard in the flower shop across from the cathedral. Or will be, if they don't shoot themselves first. When she sees you, she doesn't stop cutting. Pale and quiet, she says, eyeing you. Just what we like. The Allies are moving. You'll hear it before you see it. You hand her a bunch of violets. That's the signal. Says he's from Ohio. I don't know where that is. I don't care. You get it to him. She takes them without looking and says, "They're early this year." "Only the sardines," you reply. She finally smiles. She brings you through the shop, past buckets of wilting tulips and the heavy scent of overripe lily, to a staircase behind a curtain of green velvet. You follow her down into the cold belly of the building. The cellar is packed with crates, candles, a battered typewriter, and 2 kids who look about 15. Not now, not this close. Patrols have grown jumpy. Rumors of liberation have made the Germans meaner, more unpredictable. One is cleaning a rifle with alarming focus. The other is snoring against a sack of potatoes. "They're couriers," she says. She gives you bread. A miracle. And news. Paris is close. You chew slowly, trying to process that. Paris is close. For a moment, you let yourself imagine it: open cafes, boots off, laughter in the street that doesn't make your skin crawl. Then Maman Renard brings out the final delivery. A small suitcase with reinforced corners, heavier than it looks. This goes to an American unit north of Dreux. You'll meet the scout outside Le Mail-sur-Sarthe. His name is Brooks. You nod. "Do not open the case," she says. "I never do." She eyes you. "And don't let them take you." You leave at nightfall, under a moon that feels like a watchtower. The roads are still dangerous. They can smell the end, but they still want to win on the way down. Historians still debate whether the final weeks of the occupation were the bloodiest. The records are incomplete, chaotic. Some claim the worst was already over. Others insist it hadn't even started yet. But for you, every footstep feels like a gamble. Every field, a trap. You make it to Le Mail-sur-Sarthe on the second night, hiding in hay wagons and slipping through hedgerows. You arrive soaked, scratched, and starving. Brooks is waiting in the barn behind the inn. He's tall, broad-shouldered, and wearing the wrong boots for this kind of mud. "Holy hell," he says when he sees you. "You're a kid." "I'm 27. You don't look it. You don't smell American." He grins. "That's because I've been eating French rations for 3 weeks." You hand him the case. "Don't drop it." He whistles. "What's in it?" "I don't know." He opens his mouth like he's going to argue, then thinks better of it. Smart man. Not because they were untrustworthy, because it made the burden lighter. You can't be afraid of what you don't know. A quirky truth? Resistance messengers were sometimes told they were delivering chocolate or socks when it was actually explosives or radio parts. Brooks offers you a ride. You decline. You're not sure what side that is anymore. You head back south toward Chartres. I still have a job to finish. Then I guess I'll see you on the other side. One of them is young, maybe younger than you. He meets your eyes, holds the gaze for a second too long. Then he looks away. Maybe he's tired too. The shop is dark, but the violets in the window are fresh. Maybe we all are. He nods. You don't respond. The air smells different. Now gunpowder, yes, but also freedom. Or at least the possibility of it. On the road, you pass a group of retreating Germans. You lower your head, blend in like smoke. You walk all the way back to the flower shop. Mamang Renard is gone. Paris is free. Not in theory. Not in rumor. Free. Someone is singing La Marseillaise in the wrong key. You don't hear it on the radio. You feel it in your teeth. You do. But your body doesn't know how to switch that fast. Not yet. You stand in the middle of it all. The photos show joy, flags, soldiers with flowers in their rifles. But beneath the triumph or ashes, suspicion, grief, still, quiet, unsmiling. Strangers hug. It doesn't fit properly, and her shoes are 2 sizes too big, but she's smiling like it's permanent. Cry, scream. It starts with tremors, strange ones. There are still skirmishes. Untouched. Still threats. Still a chance this is all some cruel misunderstanding. You're re-walking near Montrouge when a baker leans out of his shop window and tosses you a roll for no reason. The bookstore that once hid typewriter ribbons now sells romance novels. The hat shop? Gone. A woman in worn heels dances in the middle of the street with her eyes closed. 2 boys are painting something on a wall, fast and messy. Vive la France in red, white, and blue chalk. You see a German soldier hand his rifle to a child. The child walks off. The soldier lights a cigarette and just sits. You've seen a lot of things, but you've never seen a war exhale. For others, it just felt truer. Maybe you'll keep yours too. Or teach real children how to play piano badly. It's not official yet, and you let it carry you forward. The one with all your names, all your lies, all your versions. But when the bells of Notre Dame begin to ring and keep ringing, and the rooftops erupt in cheers like thunder, you know, it's over. You're in the street when it happens. The crowd swallows you. You duck under flags you didn't know were still around. People are kissing on balconies. Champagne is being poured over heads. And you? You want to feel it. Tuck it under your bed. Not to forget, but to rest. Historians still debate what liberation felt like for those who lived under occupation. You've spent years hiding, swallowing your voice, forgetting your name. The war didn't just steal people. It stole the version of you that could afford to feel safe in the sun. Claire finds you near the Seine, hours later. She's wearing a dress, a real one. They're gone, she says. You nod. You're still here. Another nod. She holds your hand. It's warm, steady. Together, you walk through the city you barely recognize. The cafe where you met Leon is open again. Someone painted over the bullet holes. At a street corner, someone yells, "We did it!" You don't say anything, but Claire squeezes your hand once. Later that night, you return to your old flat. It's dusty. Your real name is still carved under the windowsill. You run your fingers over it. Then, you go to your secret stash, the one you swore you'd never dig up unless you made it. The diary. You flip to the final page. You write, Jean Martin died during the war. So did Odette. So did Simone. So did the woman who never learned to cry on time. You stare at the page. Then you add, but I'm still here, whoever I am now. You fold the diary shut. A quirky final fact? Some resistance members never stopped using aliases, even after the war. For some, it felt safer. Maybe you'll plant violets. Or maybe you'll finally learn to sleep without one ear open. The city breathes again. So now, let's lie back. Sink into the softness of your bed, like it's the attic floor that kept you safe. Let your chest rise slowly, steadily. No more running, no more watching shadows. You've made it through something impossible. And the city, with all its hidden codes and stolen bread and whispered names, is quiet now. Its boots have stopped echoing. Its bells have sung. The resistance has faded into the folds of daily life, like the thread of a secret hem, still holding everything together, even when forgotten. Imagine the air is cool again, like a Paris night in early fall. Not heavy, not sharp, just soft, just enough. Imagine the scent of warm stone and distant lavender, the rustle of paper maps in safe hands, the sound of clocks that finally tick in agreement. You are no longer being watched. You are no longer pretending. There are no more aliases to remember, no more fake suns to invent, no more bread with secrets inside. There is only this breath, and this one, and this one. You are home. You are free. You are safe. Sleep well.